This is everything you need to know to become a master at toes to bar. I'll teach you step by step how to get your first toes to bar, how to string them in big sets, some common mistakes that I see when people are trying to work on toes to bar, and at the end I'll show you some tricks on how to make these faster and more efficient.
Today's video is sponsored by Barbell Apparel. If you want high performance, stylish gear for your workouts, your work, and to go out with friends, check out Barbell Apparel. Click the link in the description to shop now and let them know that I sent you to support the channel.
First, there are 3 things you need to be able to complete toes to bar. One is enough grip strength and shoulder strength to hang from the bar and do the movement. The second is enough midline strength to be able to do sit-ups and V-ups. And the third is enough hamstring length to almost be able to touch your toes. You don't have to be amazing in any of those, but if you're severely lacking in one, it will hold back your progress from being able to complete toes to bar and to be able to string them in big sets. First thing we need to look at is grip. Now, whenever we're hanging onto the pull-up bar, we need to see the pinky knuckle on top of the bar. That will put a kink in your wrist and it'll allow you to leverage your lat. If we start to slip into the fingertips, it becomes really hard to push down on the pull-up bar. We want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to keep the knuckles on top of the bar through the rep. The next is going to be the hollow and arch position. So the hollow shape for toes to bar, if you're laying on your back, we should always have this little space underneath our back. Hands go above the head. What we're not doing is this and raising, staying arched here. What we want to do is tuck the hip like this. Okay, so one way you can feel that is point your toes up and then lower down slowly. You feel your low back on the ground. You feel your abs work to hold your hips in place. Okay, so we want to be able to pull from there using our midline. Looks like this. Okay, so this is our hollow shape that we're looking for to be on during the toes to bar when we're hanging. So the arch shape is exactly the same. It's just the opposite. We want to be able to flex through our low back. What I don't like to see is people to lift the torso up like this. That's not what we're looking for. And we want the hands and the feet to come up an even distance. So looking for you to keep your nose close to the ground and you're just gonna flex. Okay, and relax. Next, we need to develop the scap pull-up. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is jump on top of the bar. Again, pinky knuckles on top. We're gonna dead hang here. And then all I want to see is without bending at the elbow, you're just going to retract your shoulder all the way. And relax, retract the shoulder and hold, and relax. Now, whenever we're doing our toes to bar, we're going to want to maintain this top of the scap pull-up position. Okay? If you start to get drug into the top of your shoulder like this, it becomes really hard to push down on the bar and won't allow you to get the elevation that you need on the backside. Next, once we have the strength to hold that scap pull-up, what we're going to do is call it a beat swing or a basic kip swing. Basically, the idea here is that we're trying to balance on either side of the upright, so we're not going too far in front or too far behind. We're trying to make that distance in front and back even. Now, I want you to point your toes down and make sure that we're initiating this movement from the shoulder. Okay, so we're going to jump up. We're going to retract our shoulders. We're going to find our hollow shape, and then we're going to open and close. Okay, just like that. Staying balanced on either side of the pull-up bar. The next step is pushing down on the back of the bar and feeling comfortable taking your hands off. So this is going to be Kip Swing plus Liftoff. So I want you to enter the toes to bar already in that hollow shape, with your feet out front and your shoulders behind the upright. We're gonna open from the shoulder, and then on the back swing, all you're gonna do is push down and try and get a little bit of elevation. Try and take your hands off and then latch back on with that knuckle on top. Looks like this. Just getting confident in holding that shoulder down and being able to understand how to push on the backside. Next would be kip swing with a press down. Basically the same motion, we're just not going to take the hands off. Idea here is that you're keeping your toes out in front of the bar for leverage, and then you're pushing down as hard as you can on the backswing. Looks like this. And again, at the front swing, we're focusing on holding that top of the scap pull-up. Once you can do those 3 drills pretty well, The next thing we want to see is Kip Swing plus a tuck. Your legs are heavy, and it's harder to hold your leg here with your abs than it is to hold your leg here. It's also, anytime weight comes away from your middle, it gets harder and heavier. So we want to keep that knee as close as we can to the chest, and that tuck should happen, helping you swing up and back even more. Okay, so we're going to do our basic Kip Swing at the front, and on the back, I want the knees to tuck as you're coming up into that upper swing of the back of the kip. So it looks like this. And at the front of every rep, I'm trying to get long here, trying to not get kicky. If you can do that Kip Swing with a tuck, you're already in this position. All you need to do is just extend your knee to kick the bar. Now, on that backswing, we're gonna have a peak, and then you're gonna start to swing back down. We want to be kicking the bar just as you're reaching the peak of your backswing. If you try and kick too early or too late, you're gonna end up underneath the bar, and it's gonna be way harder to do that toes to bar. So just trying to get one, we're gonna Kip Swing, we're gonna tuck hard, and then at the peak of the swing, I'm just gonna extend my knee and kick the bar. Looks like this. Just good. Now stringing them in sets. Once you have one toes to bar, how do we do them in sets? Doing big sets of toes to bar requires two things. One, understanding where your body is in the movement against the pull-up bar, and two is being able to drive the movement from your shoulders. If you get to a point where you're just pulling your feet up, it's gonna be really hard to string them in sets or to keep that rhythm going. One thing that can help with both aspects of understanding where you are in space and driving from the shoulder is a straight leg toes to bar. So instead of tucking and kicking, we're gonna try and just pike at the hip. Okay, this is more of a gymnastics style toes to bar. So this takes a lot more from your abs, takes a lot more from your hip flexors, it takes a little bit more from your shoulders as well. You know, maybe try to do a straight leg, and that might help you understand how to string them a little better. Okay, so straight leg toes to bar looks like this. Okay, it's way easier to understand how to use your shoulder to open and close and to continue that movement going. The biggest thing that is going to kill a big set of toes to bar is becoming either relaxed in the shoulders or losing that grip on top of the pull-up bars. So some common mistakes to look out for and avoid when you're working on toes to bar or when you're in your sets of toes to bar. The first and the biggest one is going to be letting the knee bend and the foot point back at the wall. So the fix that I like for this is to draw an X down underneath the pull-up bar, and that's going to be your target for where we're pointing our toes. So what we don't want to see is you to tuck and then go like this. If we do, we'll see you point directly down. Okay, now people in CrossFit are told, hey, heels need to come behind the upright. And so when they hear that, they think that's what needs to happen, is kind of kick at the knee. Your heels will come back, but what we're trying to do is here open at the hip at the front of the swing. From your hip to your foot is like a bat, right? This is like swinging a short bat. This is like swinging a long bat, right? Which is gonna make the ball go further. A second really common thing I see is the toes making contact with the bar with the hips out in front of the upright. So a lot of times this is when people have really strong abs. They'll curl up, their chest will face up, and they'll just kind of let the hips come in front of the bar. It looks like this. And it just puts you into a swing and makes it so that you can't string them in sets. If you're doing singles and you're dead tired and your shoulders are wrecked, sure, it's okay, I guess. But I wouldn't practice like that. And if you're struggling to get sets of toes to bar, that's probably a factor in it. Another mistake that I see that's not so much a mistake with doing toes to bar, but a thing that's just gonna not help you get further into big sets is raising the legs up. Okay, so we really wanna see a tuck and then a kick, because again, like I said, anytime weight comes away from your body, it gets heavier. Your leg is very heavy like this. It's taxing on your midline to swing it out like that. So instead of this, we're just swinging these big legs out. We really want to tuck as close as you can to your chest, It'll just make it more efficient and a little bit easier, especially in the bigger sets. Now, in my opinion, going to complete failure on any gymnastics movement is a terrible idea. If you start to feel your abs work, like it feels like you're doing a bunch of sit-ups, your abs start to cramp, you're like, ugh, ugh, to do those last couple, I think you should have already dropped a few reps earlier. Okay, so we want to make this as much about the kip and as little about you using your abs to do to the toes to bar. Your midline is super valuable for everything else we do in CrossFit. So if you ruin your abs here and then you have to go squat clean a heavy bar, it's going to be really tough to do. Another common error that I see when people are working on toes to bar is they try and jump up right underneath the bar. This will kind of kick your hips out front and it'll make it hard for you to start that first kip. I want to see you kind of jump into it with your shoulder already up and back behind the bar and your foot already out front, like you're on a swing set. Okay, once we get onto this little swing set, we're going to ride that first kip. Okay, so jumping up like this and getting into a nice arch is going to be way easier than getting here and then trying to get something going from there. So now a couple tricks with toes to bar. One is to keep you more efficient. If you're doing the tuck and kick method, which is my personal favorite and what I recommend, after your toes touch the bar, we really want to make sure that you're buying as much hip power as you can and drawing a big line away from the pull-up bar and trying to get that leg straight as soon as you finish touching the bar. A lot of times I see people do this. They'll tuck and kick and they'll go right back. Okay, and try and do that little short kip. What I would recommend is after your toes touch, do it like this. So we're gonna touch, long, 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 tuck, kick, long, tuck, kick, long. Okay, and that'll help you buy a lot of power in your hips for that next kip. If you're trying to go really fast, you can kind of underutilize the kip swing and do like the scoop method, which you'll see people in competition do. They're really just trying to shorten the range of motion. Again, I wouldn't recommend this for most of the time just because it's not that efficient and it will overuse your abs a lot. But as soon as the feet touch, we're trying to just kind of get the heels behind and scoop back up. Okay, so minimal with the pressing down, maximal with using the abs and just getting the feet up. So that looks like this. Okay, so those are way faster. If you have a set of 10 and you're sprinting at the end of the workout or you're racing somebody and you're trying to get ahead, like that's a way that you can do that, but not how I'd recommend most toes to bar in most workouts to be done. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it was helpful. If you want to learn another skill on the pull-up bar, check out my butterfly pull-up video next. Remember to always give your effort over everything, and I'll see you in the next one.